Hi, I'm Aide, and I'm the developer of Hearing Aid.
Hi, I'm Rashika Sharma and I'm the IT manager.
And I'm Elizabeth Geckman, the designer, and we are the creators of Hearing Aid.
So we came to this topic because my grandma, who lives in India right now, is hearing impaired and she continuously has to manually adjust the hearing aid settings on her hearing aid, which really frustrates her and annoys her at times because she constantly has to do it. Thus, sometimes she stops even wearing hearing aids, which makes her in turn not be able to hear me or my brother or my cousins, which in turn makes us kind of sad. Thus, we decided to create an app that would allow a person to not manually adjust their hearing aids constantly. Thus, we decided to use AI, artificial intelligence, and we decided to use invoice control settings, which Atimi Candy will further elaborate on.
So with the AI will notice the behaviors of the person with how they change the amplitude of their hearing aid, and then with the invoice controls, this is an optional feature that the user can use to basically use the Android devices, virtual assistants such as Hey Google to adjust the amplitude of your hearing aid. So for instance, it could say, "Hey Google, raise the amplitude of my hearing aid," and then the application will raise the amplitude of their hearing aid.
The user interface has been specifically designed to make it as easy as possible for all ages to be able to control their volume settings. There is a specific bar around the orange to red or the moderate to high volume control setting that prevents the user from turning up their hearing aid too high, because although they might have some form of hearing loss, it is still possible to further damage the nerves within your ear if you listen to music too loudly. In addition, we have made the scroll bar feature very, very accessible for most of the older demographic. Most of the older demographic might have arthritic features or cannot bend their limbs properly, specifically the joints in their fingers. So because of that, the scroll, instead of having to follow the arc that you see in the presentation, they will be able to swipe their finger anywhere from one side of the screen to the other, and this will help control their volume settings.
So with that, let's get on to our presentation. So the developer's job is to manage the team's progress, delegate responsibilities, and make sure everything is completed on time. The IT manager's job is to program the application. Finally, the designer's job is to outline the user interface.
So, the problem we identified was individuals with hearing aids have to manually change the amplitude of their device. Thus, our product deals with the issue of having to manually adjust the hearing aids more efficiently. In addition, our project will also recognize the individual's audiogram, or in other words, the auditory prescription of the patient. This will allow the hearing aid to automatically readjust itself without the help of the individual. Furthermore, our product will be able to recognize the surrounding sound from the environment in which the person is located, automatically adjusting the volume of the hearing aid. The solution we identified was a wireless hearing aid that can automatically adjust to your surroundings and can be controlled from your smartphone directly.
In a survey with a sample size of 35 hearing impaired people, the participants were asked, how tedious is changing your hearing aid? The scale being a Likert scale out of 5, with 5 being not at all. The participants rated their annoyance to be approximately half, showing that while hearing aids are not a hassle, they could be more efficient. In a follow-up question, the participants were asked, how comfortable are you with changing your hearing aid in public, using the same scale? The participants on average rated their comfort levels around 3.114, leaning more towards the side of being uncomfortable and embarrassing to constantly readjust their hearing aids in public.
Our target audience ranges from adolescents to the elderly. Our product will sell because our app provides sufficient tools that allow people with hearing aids to not have to alter the setting on their hearing aids constantly. Instead, our app will complete the task for the people. Although there are companies that have pre-existing hearing aids that automatically adjust to surround sound, they cost around $5,000 to $6,000. Our product has the ability to work with mid-range as well as low-range prices so as to become more affordable while having the benefit of not having to always hand operate the hearing aids.
So, for our current status, the most important feature is artificial intelligence. The most important feature is artificial intelligence, or in other words, AI. Artificial intelligence would read the behaviors of the individual and see how they adjust their hearing aid's amplitude. Then, the AI will emulate this behavior, doing the same thing the user does in those specific situations. We also needed to make sure this application would read the location of the user in order to figure out how to accurately adjust the amplitude of the user's aid. Additional work that needed to be done was making sure our user interface could be easily understood by both adolescents and the elderly.
This slide shows a possibility for color schemes and fonts. The image on the left is the main screen, as explained in a flowchart later on in the video, and it contains general information a user of hearing aid would have to input in order to reach their audiogram and program their hearing aid accordingly. The image on the right is an example of what the user interface could be on the main screen. The main screen allows for volume control settings for both the left and right ear, depending on which ear the hearing aid is located, and could also allow the user to see their audiogram, aka audio or auditory prescription, in the right-hand corner. Here are more parts of the user interface, including a logo, how the app will still be functional when it is not currently open, and a push notification, and various scroll mechanics that are synchronized with the volume control.
As stated before, the green represents the good hearing range for the hearing aid. Blue represents the volume that's too low for the user's hearing aid. Orange represents the volume that's too high, that's a bit too high for the person's hearing aid, and then red represents the volume that's much too high for the user's hearing aid.
Here's a flowchart of what the user interface would look like once the user first opens up the app. When the user opens up the app for the first time, they must enter their demographic and insurance information that will be encrypted, of course, in order to register their prescription and audiogram. Then they will have to synchronize their phone with the Bluetooth in their hearing aid. After the successful pairing and correct entering of information has been done, the hearing aid will now be accessible by the user. Afterwards, the user can use the main screen that we showed earlier to figure out how to adjust the volume settings on their phone.
So some of the challenges we faced was figuring out how we would connect the hearing aid to the application and trying to find a genuine idea since Bluetooth hearing aids already existed. So Bluetooth hearing aids between the range of $5,000 to $6,000 a pair do already exist. However, it is way out of the range of what an average man or an average woman can afford now these days. That is very expensive, as it costs $5,000 to $6,000 per year. And that's not limiting maintenance or any checkups or any battery failures. So for successes, we have learned proper surveying techniques. So when we had to survey the 35 people for our survey, we learned the proper methodological and ethical concerns regarding a study in surveys. Also, we learned how to work collaboratively with each other. Personally, we know how to work collaboratively with each other from school, but this project furthered those skills because we would have to meet outside of the classroom on our own times and with our own motives to do this research. Thus, I think we created a stronger base together. Also, we were able to learn more about the negative aspects of the light for the impaired. We found out that hearing aids cost $5,000 to $6,000 a year, which is really expensive for most people. Most people who really do need hearing aids cannot even afford them and forego it because of the price cost and not being able to afford it. And of course, food and water take a proceeding over that. Thank you for listening to our presentation about our app, the Hearing Aid.
Hear you later!